Welcome back to the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny, the only NFL podcast where if one of the hosts could speak, his first word would be wishbone. That's Lenny. I'm Mina Kimes. And it is week 3, which means I am once again joined by my every other week preview guest, Ben Solak, who has now managed to reorient his camera so he is looking directly at you, straight. Yeah, it's not to the side if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, go check it out on YouTube. As we have been doing all year, we are going to talk about every game, although we're going to start the transition now to where some games we're going to talk about a little bit longer. Some games we're going to talk about a little bit less. Probably
so
every
just
game.
a week 3 to be like, nah, I'm done with these teams.
Panthers, Raiders, not the 1-1 Raiders. But yeah, so we're going to take the same format. We're going to each take one side of the ball, talk about a key for each team to win. We're going to pick the games, which was a thing we did last week. We are going to start with Thursday Night Football. That was another, people didn't like us putting that at the end, Ben. They wanted to know right away. Before we get started, though, you posted something on Twitter.
Uh-oh.
And I quote tweeted about how, right now defenses are really incentivizing offenses to run the ball. And I had been working on these matchups, and it's really incredible how many of them had come down to can they run the ball? They should probably run the ball. Or can they stop the run? They need to stop the run. And it really sometimes doing all of these games and trying to come up with these singular factors really drives home, NFL wide trends and sort of what is happening across the league, because that is, I don't think if we had done this exercise 4 years ago, I don't think that would have been the case.
Yeah. And there's always you go and you look at rushing success rate numbers, and they're about the same as they were for the last 5 years. You go look at EPA per play numbers, they're about the same as they were the last 5 years. Passing is more efficient than running by the metrics that we have. It's more explosive than running. It produces more yards, produces more points than running. It's known. I'm not arguing it. What I see on the field is defenses, especially against good quarterbacks and good offenses, are more willing than ever, in my opinion, off my eyes, over 2 weeks, to just be like, look at this big B gap. You want to run in this? You want to go? You run it. Go, please. Just this is for you, right? They're putting a 225-pound safety in the B gap with no tackle, and they're like, just run. That's all we want from you. It feels increasingly like in the Brandon Staley moment of the late 2010s, he was waving the white flag against the run and basically just being like, listen, run it on me. Please run it on me. And it felt like every DC was like, no, we would never do this. And then 4 years later, you just look at how teams are playing like Josh Allen and Mahomes and other quarterbacks. And you're just like, wow, teams like the Bengals, they're giving Joe Burrow, even in his current state, just running lanes. It feels that way. It really does.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that Shane Gillis bit about how as he gets older, he can feel the conservative politics slowly kind of creeping into his body like a werewolf, and he's like, that's how
early onset Republican is being interested in the history of World War II.
Onset run the ball. I am becoming. I felt it creeping into my body during the Eagles game, not just even on that final sequence, which Dominique and I talked about, where they threw it on third down, then go for it. But honestly, throughout the game, every time they got to the red zone, it was like a little trickle down my spine, like run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. And I felt myself getting so perturbed when they didn't. And I was thinking to myself, what am I becoming? How is this happening to me? I've been not this guy my entire life, and here I am.
Listen, I don't know to whom the quote is correctly attributed. I know it to be Woody Hayes. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But it's there are 3 things that can happen when you run the football, and 2 of them are bad, right? It's the moment Saquon Barkley dropped that ball on Monday night. I was like, man, there's 3 things that can happen when you throw the football, and 2 of them are bad. It just, I love the nice, warm, comforting embrace of 2nd and 6. I love the way it feels. It makes me feel so safe, and I want it. I want it every down.
Is it just because we're becoming dads? Are we dad also part of this? I don't know.
That's absolutely. I care about my lawn, and I care about running the football on early downs. That's what it is, fatherhood now.
All right. Running the football is unfortunately, it is my key for. I have the Jets side of this New England New York game, and actually, it's funny because I do think you could go look at this either ways. What I went with was the defense. So can you stop the run? Because if you can stop the run against New England, you can stop this offense. They actually have a pretty damn good running game. And I think what I keep going back to is week one, watching San Francisco without Christian McCaffrey, with a fairly simplified running game with Jordan Mason, just obliterating those Jets wide alignments on that defensive line. And look, the Jets run defense wasn't actually spectacular last year either. Some of that is structural. Some of that is the way Robert Saleh calls defense. But my feeling is it is clearly the most important thing for this game, for this defense, because of the one-dimensional nature of the New England offense.
Yeah, and in that week one game against a 49ers team that's willing to go heavy personnel, the Jets put 3 backers on the field, right? They're one of the fewer defenses left that really want to be in base with 3 off-ball linebackers. That third backer is Jamian Sherwood. I think the 49ers had a good time running the football, Jamian Sherwood in week one. And now CJ Mosley had to leave the week 2 game against the Titans with a toe issue. He says he's 50-50. He was a limited participant in practice, but the way he's talking about it, he's like, well, I can't really play it and drive. It's like, well, that feels like you shouldn't play. Then that's bad for linebacker. And so that the ability to get, now you're going to have Sherwood on the field in nickel, but the ability to get 3 linebackers on the field and really test that depth is my key for the Patriots, right? It's test that linebacker room without CJ Mosley if he really can't go on Thursday. It's both in the running game, like you brought up, and then it's also with Hunter Henry, right? And the passing game to the tight ends against the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, 12 targets.
He went crazy.
Catches,
he went absolutely crazy.
Turn the clock back, Hunter Henry. Now, a lot of that, they had a big catch and run on a screen, 35 yards. But on like third and medium, they just kept on Henry, just get to the sticks and turn. And Jacoby will just dot you right away, right? They're willing to put a tight end and a back on the field and then go empty, kind of spread you out and take Henry against a backer, which I think is a good matchup against these Jets. So no CJ Mosley, I think, is a big deal for the Patriots.
Yeah, this is the way that actually any offense should attack the Jets, in my opinion. Obviously, their strength is on the perimeter. There's no point in throwing on Sauce Gardner in this one. It has been as good as, Quincy Williams and maybe healthy CJ Mosley are. The spine of the defense, even coming into this season, before it started, was actually last year too, when offenses did have a little bit of success. Sometimes it was attacking the safeties, attacking the deep middle of the field. So I expect to see a super run heavy game plan, a lot of play action, as you talked about, which is, the formula for the Patriots does match up decently well with the weakness of the Jets. Now, I think the Jets defense is better. And I think it's not like I'm saying, I don't think that the Patriots are going to go crazy offensively in this one. Mm-hmm. It just seems like a pretty obvious, this is one of the few areas on this side of the ball where we do have a matchup advantage. I do want to hit the other side of the ball, since you and I both did, Patriots offense versus Jets defense. I actually feel kind of similarly about New York, but I actually, again, I'm going back to the Niners game with this one. And let me rephrase that. I don't feel similarly. I also want to talk about the run. And I have the opposite take, which is I do not want to see Nathaniel Hackett light first down on fire running. I should stop using that phrase. I've been overusing it, but I used it a lot talking about the Texans last week.
It's the problem when you talk this much about football is you just end up with 3 or 4 gimme phrases that you just, it's like stick on third down. We just go back to it every single time.
Let me rephrase that. I don't want Nathaniel Hackett to keep running Breece Hall into the teeth of this Patriots defense if it's not working. And I think it is possible that it will not work. I want to see a lot of quick game. You got to keep Aaron Rodgers out of third and long.
Yeah, you got to keep Aaron Rodgers also out of long dropbacks because he's not super mobile right now. I think pass protection is worse in New York than they hoped it would be after the offensive line revamp this past offseason. And I'll tell you, the Patriots are going to take Christian Gonzalez away. They're going to do, or excuse me, they're going to take Garrett Wilson away. How will they do it? They have Christian Gonzalez, who's been really nice to this point against wide receiver ones. He had a good game against DK. DK obviously had the big touchdown against cover zeros and miscommunication on the side of the line. Listen, Gonzalez through 2 weeks, been excellent. And then also they've shown at this point in terms of coverage rotation and doing creative stuff defensively. If they want to get a bracket on a guy, if they want to get a safety on top of a guy, they have the tools to do that. They're going to make Alan Lazard beat him, right? They're going to make Tyler Conklin beat him. They're going to make Malachi Corey and Breece Hall catching the ball to the backfield.
Breece Hall catching the ball, I really like.
Yeah, and so that's the thing is you have to be willing to go quick game, willing to go distribution, willing to kind of nickel and dime your way down the field. Because if you're trying to live on run, and then Garrett Wilson in one-on-one situations, I think you're going to lose that battle. This Patriots. This is not a great matchup for the Jets.
I don't actually think the Patriots are going to be a challenging matchup for a lot of teams because I believe this defense is for real good.
Keon White is a dude.
Oh my God.
I just finished watching that
crazy
film.
Against Seattle.
They had him dropping 20 yards in
They're
zone.
lining him everywhere. They're dropping him into coverage. He's blowing up runs.
He's a guy.
Freaking maniac. And again, like if you get in the third and long against this defense, it's funny because the Patriots don't have like a super high pressure rate, and some of their pass rush metrics aren't that great. But some of that has to do with the way they play.
It's a much rush team, exactly. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and I just think they're going to create a lot of. I actually think both defenses have the advantage in this one, and that's an ugly formula for a Thursday night game. I'm still going with the Jets. I think just because I think Rodgers is going to be able to do just enough against this defense, and I have less confidence in the other side of the ball. But this is ugly. Like, I don't know what the spread is. We're not doing spread picks, but
it's a 6-point spread.
Oh, then I would definitely take New England to cover.
I think the
Jets straight up.
Yeah, I think the Patriots win it. I do.
Ooh, all right.
The Darian Lowe might be out on the left side. It looks like so the left side of that line is going to be real rough, and so it's just got to protect Jacoby, got to run the football, and kind of hide the pass protection a little bit. But I mean, without some pretty classic Will Levis hijinks, the Jets are 0-2. And so to me, like if Jacoby avoids the mistakes, which he's been good at so far, Patriots, I think, win this game.
Jets pass rush too. Good God, they got to figure this out.
I can't comment on Jets pass rush at this time because I have a tweet about how I thought Will McDonald was a reach, and then he had the first good game of his career on Sunday, and Jets fans have been excavating it for 48 hours. So at this time, I have no comment.
Hilarious. Okay, that's great. We're on the other sides of this one. Yeah, this is gonna be. I just think it just feels like an ugly game, and Patriots could win an ugly game. So the next game we're doing is going to be the first where only one person does the key matchup that they think will perhaps determine the outcome, and that is Giants Browns. We're not so that's you, Ben. You're up first. What do you think is the key here?
My key is activate a place kicker. That's my key for victory for the New York Giants, who walked into Sunday's game against the Commanders with Graham Gano nursing a groin injury. Excuse me. He was on the injury report. They had a practice squad place kicker. They did not bump him up for the game, and then Gano hurt himself on the opening kickoff, and then they could not kick the football for the rest of the game. And head coach Brian Daboll's like kind of furious that he's being questioned about this, which is driving me nuts. So obviously, tongue in cheek, activated place kicker, Graham Gano's on injury reserve, whatever. Your real, I think, key to this game is can you not lose to the Deshaun Watson scramble drill plays? Can you not lose to Deshaun Watson outside of structure? I actually think the Giants defensively have like. They were kind of a hipster pick entering the season. Yeah. And then the first couple of weeks, like it doesn't look that great in terms of metrics. When I watch the film, like I like what Andrew Phillips is doing. I like Brian Burns. I think he's impacting the game, even though I know the stat sheet isn't really there right now. Dexter Lawrence obviously had his big game week 1 against the Vikings. Like they still have good pieces. I think that they can win in structure against the Browns, especially the Browns continue to cycle through tackle injuries. But Deshaun right now, like when he wins tucking the football and running or scrambling outside and then making a throw outside of structure. So you have to be able to win that second reaction play. And that's where like, I think that some of the young corners can get taken advantage of. I think some of the aggressiveness in the way the Giants play defense, you can give up some big scrambles. So win the second reaction play and you can keep this thing close if you're in New York.
Yeah, Watson did actually make some plays week 2 after, the disastrous week 1 in that fashion. And I think that's a good point. The only other thing I know we're not doing both sides, but I wrote Malik Neighbors, 25 targets.
Right now, this was a cool next gen stat. There are 4 players right now, wide receivers, who have at least 50% of their team's air yards. And one of those 4 is Malik Neighbors. The Giants right now,
in his hands, man.
Living on the rookie.
Just shallow crossers, catch and run, whatever. I mean, that ball has got to come out hot out of Daniel Jones' hands. And anytime it goes to Malik Neighbors, seems like good things happen. All right. A little longer discussion here. This is a big one. Eagles Saints, man. This is I don't think this is I think the game we're going to talk about next is my favorite game. But this one has pretty high stakes, given the success thus far of the New Orleans Saints, the disastrous way in which the last Eagles game collapsed. Look, for New Orleans, this is going to sound sort of facile, but I wrote offense. Just do everything you've been doing.
Yeah, don't change a thing.
And I don't mean that like obviously they've been incredibly successful both running the ball and through the air. And, obviously if those numbers were to persist, it means that they've won this game. I mean more schematically, Ben, because everything that the Saints have been doing, both on the ground and through the air, and Dominique and I talked about this at length on Monday because Tuesday, pardon me, they were my winner. Those are all things that the Eagles are extremely vulnerable to, right? Like all those, the zone running game with Kamara, the play action pass, all the misdirection, the motion, like those are, if I was
middle of the field throws,
middle of the field
like
throws,
linebackers, yeah.
If I was attacking the Eagles defense, I would do just that. And I think the Saints at some point are going to run into like a pretty serious challenge because I think week 1, you get Carolina, week 2, Dallas. That defense is not good against this type of offense in particular. I do not think that the Eagles defense is that challenge.
Yeah, week 5 against the Chiefs is the one. And then I think that week 6, they have Todd Bowles in the box. And that's what's like, all right, if they cruise week 3 and week 4, which I expect them to do.
I'm not saying they're frauds. I'm saying like a real challenge. I think they're good. So
no, they're definitely good. They're certainly good. The reason why they need a litmus test is because right now, I wrote about the Saints offense this week for the site. Right now, Derek Carr has attempted 75% of his pass attempts with a win percentage of over 75%, like a win probability. Like they're just living with huge first quarter leads, first half leads. Derek Carr has had 7 third down dropbacks all season. Like that's less than Malik Willis, who played 1 game and also didn't drop back. They're just getting such good script at this time. And so they absolutely 100% unequivocally have the offense to hurt the Eagles, right? They're going to be able to throw over the middle of the field. They're going to be able to dominate double teams in the running game, get vertical. Like this is scary, scary season for what the Eagles do defensively. My key for the Eagles accordingly then is you really got to test the Saints run defense. It has largely been untested to this point because you're playing Carolina and Dallas, 2 teams that just the handoff game isn't as strong. And then because of the game scripts, right? You fall behind early, you're just not going to be able to run the football as much. Dennis Allen's defenses have historically not been great against mobile quarterbacks, against rushing quarterbacks. Last season, they didn't even face a top rushing quarterback guy. They gave up 70 yards to Tyson Bagent, 59 to Trevor Lawrence, 44 to Josh Dobbs, 40 to Bryce Young. And then in 22, when they had a couple more mobile guys, 82 to Lamar Jackson, 72 to Marcus Mariota. Like when you play this much man coverage, you let your linebackers run a little bit fast to flow, you're going to suffer the scramble quarterback and the running quarterback. Jalen Hurts has played Dennis Allen twice, 18 carries in both games Jalen Hurts had. They were there,
18 in both. Wait, what was the last time they played?
So 21. This was a Trevor Siemian game for the Saints. He had 69 yards on 18 carries. Wasn't pretty. But in 2020, they paid Taysom Hill was the starting quarterback. He attempted 38 passes, 18 carries for 106 yards. Jalen Hurts.
So both of those games it was 2020 and 2021 so is Jalen Hurts that guy on the ground anymore? Right. Is naturally my next question. Obviously, you're coming off a Monday Night Football game where, unfortunately, he smashed his rushing over for your girls' parlay pick, which had him running under.
I had him under as well.
He did seem to have a greater willingness to carry it. What did you think watching him? What have you felt watching him run the ball generally this year?
Better like that. If you'd asked me before the Falcons game, I'd be like, yeah, no, he's functionally like Geno in terms of running game. You know what I'm saying? Like he just can get you a tough 7 yards. Like that's all he's bringing right now. Against Atlanta, on the first few drives, he didn't look fast. He wasn't really running. And they were intentionally forcing him outside of the pocket, making him roll to his right, roll to his left. And then he was trying to make throws. At one point, he came back from the sideline, and then after the Falcons tried to push him right, he would just step upfield and just run through the gut, right? He would just go through the tackles, right? Take advantage of them trying to play that contain, and that's where he started to get some of the bigger gains, and the train started to move a little bit. He got some confidence. So I'm hoping that continues against the Saints, but even if it's not Hurts, even if it's the handoff game as well, like I said, kind of an untested run defense to this point, you have to control game scripts right now against the Saints because the thing that has killed the 2 teams that have faced him have been they're losing to these big play action passes because they're down 7, they're down 14, they're trying to play the run, they're trying to get a TFL, and then all of a sudden Chris Olave in the middle of the field, Rashid Shaheed over the top. You have to control script, have to control pace.
Since this is your lane, I do have one more Eagles question. We kind of blew past I said Saints offense. I don't think the Eagles defense can stop. Just right. They present so many problems for them. Is there anything that you can think at this point in the season can be fixed or tinkered with when it comes to this Eagles defense?
So yes, but they shouldn't. And I think the point being that Vic Fangio's got a complex defense. It tends to take a little bit of time to get that off the ground. And right now, I think when you look at a defensive line where I think Jalen Carter is underperforming relative to expectation as a pass rusher. Josh Sweat is underperforming relative to expectation as a pass rusher. Bryce Huff underperforming relative to expectation. Why is everybody kind of suffering? I think it's because they're thinking on their feet and they're playing slow and they're not good at the stunts. They're not good at the twists. The games that are supposed to work in the running game and on the passing downs, none of those are working. And so you could go back to just let's Jonathan Gannon the sucker, 4 down, sprint, go after the quarterback, live and die by the 4 down rush. But the whole point is that they don't want to be that. And they're going through some of the growing pains defensively to try to pull that off in terms of their front 4, particularly their front 6, front 7. But the growing pains are nasty. All right. They don't feel good. I don't like them. But I think you kind of the belief you have to have in Vic Fangio is stay the course and eventually the ship will get turned around and you'll see the fruits of your labor. So I don't anticipate any wrinkles anytime soon.
I'm on the Saints. How about you?
Yeah, no, Saints are going to win this game. Only way they don't is Saquon 150. All right, put the ball in the belly of the back.
You know, they certainly haven't been tested, like you said. That's the Eagles are still extremely good running the ball. All right, this is the game that I think is the game of the week. That's the Texans against the Vikings. I love this game.
I thought this was going to be Cowboys Ravens when you teased it, so I'm excited.
That's the loser goes home bowl, right?
Yeah, that's a scary one.
High stakes there, but no, this is CJ Stroud versus Brian Flores. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this, in my opinion. You've got the Texans. I've got the Vikings, who are at home. You can go first on this one. What's your key for the Houston Texans?
Yeah, the key is to close the windows. Sam Darnold's playing well through 2 weeks. I don't want to take anything away from Sam Darnold. I may or may not have called the Vikings pretenders in a column this week. It got aggregated by Minnesota. It's been tough. Sam's playing well. Sam is unequivocally playing well. With that said, right now Sam is 4th in the league in next gen's wide open percentage, which is the amount of throws that he has where there's no defender within 5 yards of his target. Right? Kevin O'Connell scheming him up. All right, KOC, which this podcast knew. This podcast was very pro KOC.
Right, we both picked him as coach of the year, right? That's looking good.
Yeah. That he's scheming him up. He's doing a really, really, really good job. And this isn't behind the line of scrimmage stuff. This is throws that are 5, 10, 15
his first
yards
reads are like way down the field, and he's hitting it every time.
Yeah, and he trusts it, and he's willing to throw it. Now, because he is Sam Darnold, he's trying to throw picks. All right. Like when it is a tight window, he's also trusting that too. And he's putting the ball in harm's way. Largely, I think he's had good interception luck, but like a few balls bounce a different direction. I think the 49ers are having a different outcome in that game. So Sam is willing to test coverage. So if you're DeMeco Ryans and you're watching the way that defense, which is not the same as the scheme you're running, but obviously you used to be in San Francisco, you're watching what they suffered for the big play to Justin Jefferson. You're saying, listen, like if we give up explosives, if we lose some big one-on-ones, then we do. But like we have to get up there and press. We have to try to run a man coverage. We have to try to condense these windows and force Sam to like really beat us outside of the structure of the scheme, right? Making plus throws, which again, Sam has made those. I'm not trying to take those away. It's just so far this has been a scheme win for the Vikings on offense, not so much a personnel win, a quarterback win. Worth noting, Justin Jefferson went through walkthrough on Wednesday. I think the hope is that he's going to play. Maybe he's less than 100%. Sounds like Jordan Addison is still day to day. And so Derek Stingley, baby. Make the money, right? It's been a hype off season. It's been a good first 2 weeks. Let's go secure ourselves a bag, young man. Put him up against Justin Jefferson. Let's play ball for 4 quarters.
We were watching the Bears Texans. I was watching with Ryan Clark, and he was like, "Stingley's gonna get a pick. He's gonna get a pick. He's gonna get a pick." And he was explaining to me, like, he was like, even in your corner, like even if you have ups and downs, if you have hands like that, at some point it's going to pay off no matter what. And he's always had that ever since he was a kid. All right, I'm going to the other side of the ball here. I'm going to go with, pardon me, I'm not writing. So this is for the Vikings. Can Brian Flores generate a pass rush on early downs and control the middle of the field is what I came up with. So this is kind of coming off of what they did against the Niners, but also what I saw the Bears do with a lot of success against the Houston Texans. I mean, they were like, CJ Stroud had a rough time against that defense. And I think the Bears defense is very good. I also think the Vikings defense is very good. They're good in slightly different ways, right? Like the Bears will win with 4-man rush and play like pretty traditional zones behind that. The Vikings are obviously very unconventional. It's funny. They're actually 8th in pressure rate right now when they don't blitz, but a lot of that has to do with their use of simulated pressures. I feel like this is one where also you want to entice the Texans to run the ball on early downs, which Bobby Solak will happily oblige you. Yeah,
and potentially no Joe Mixon this week too, which you love that if they're handing the ball off.
Oh, really?
Ooh, yeah. Joe did not practice on Wednesday. They're quote hoping he can go, close quote.
I wonder if that'll make Solak be a little bit. Nah, he's still gonna run the ball a lot. No. So but I do think the Vikings did a phenomenal job against San Francisco, not only with their creative pressures, but also again closing those windows for Brock Purdy over the middle of the field. They're so good at that. And I think with it's the Texans offense is not the same as the Niners. There's some pretty significant differences. But if you can take away the middle of the field, and this is a very offensive line that is very winnable or beatable rather.
Yeah.
I think you can take away enough of their core concepts to sort of bother CJ Stroud the way that Chicago did.
Yeah. The thing that if I were like, I think if you're Flores right now and you go and you look at CJ's rookie year, CJ was not good against pressure, right? Like when CJ got pressured, like it dramatically impacted his play. He's a pocket passing quarterback. It's going to have a decent effect on him. And he also, when CJ gets pressure, he tends to like to be aggressive. He wants to go get something down the field, and that can be feast or famine. The thing, so you're like, all right, let's bring pressure. Let's scare the guy. The issue is this Texans skill position group, and particularly Nico Collins and Tank Dell, are so much faster than what you've got defensively right now. The thing that really has not been, I think, tested on the Vikings back seven just yet, which obviously, like, you know, they've had injuries, and like Harrison Smith and Josh Metellus are both still great players, but like they're just not a fast group back there. They tend to be a bigger group and a more physical group and better for blitzing. And so if I'm Flores, what I'm so worried about is just 2-second time to throw, and just Nico Collins screen and Stephon Diggs screen and Tank Dell slant, and just like if they're able to live on that, eventually they're going to break one. Eventually could be 68-yard touchdown catch and run, because they have so much team speed on you, and so it's scary. I want to get up and press, I want to get up and blitz him, but I am very, very worried about the explosive capacity of these receivers.
But don't you feel like CJ Stroud too? I mean, I'm trying to remember. I feel like there was a game last year where this happened, where their use of simulated pressures can slow him up a teeny bit, just a tick enough to throw off some of that. I mean, that frankly is something that you saw a lot again in the San Francisco game, right? Is the slants about to break over the middle of the field, and it's a throw that Brock Purdy makes 99 times out of 100. But oh no, there's a random defensive lineman flashing in front of my eyes very briefly, and Brock Purdy ends up holding to the ball, I think, longer in that game than probably he has in an entire season.
Yeah, no, I think sim pressures can slow CJ down the way they kind of slow everybody down, right? I think like it's very rare to see a quarterback who just beats them consistently. And it's worth remarking, because I brought up CJ not being good against pressure. Last season against blitz, he was excellent, right? If you give him the cheese, right? If you give him the extra numbers, then you create space downfield. He's going to kill you. He's too smart. He's got too quick of a release. He's too accurate from bad platforms. So you have to be able to get pressure without blitz, and that's where sim pressure comes in.
Yeah, I'm just very intrigued by what kind of defensive structure they also play behind their pressures. Like I've been talking about the use of sim pressures and how you can use that to slow CJ Stroud down a little bit, and the success they had with that against the 49ers, and how it took away some of their core concepts, particularly over that short to intermediate middle of the field. What I found, I mean, this has been the case with Flores for a couple of years now, but what he does behind those pressures is what's equally strange and interesting. All manner of crazy zone defenses. Is there anything that you think, like, versus this Texans offense in particular, which is just such a nightmare, particularly against, traditional zone defenses, that you think Flores might pull out of his bag for this one?
I think you got to try to play with the post safety, right? That's one of the things that he doesn't feel like he needs to do against Brock. He didn't do it too much in the two games that he's played against him, because he wants to be able to have safeties who aren't tied to the post, so that way they can drive down on the dig, right? You want to have like half safeties or quarter safeties. That way when Debo's coming across the middle of the field and Kittle's on the scene, they can go get connected to that. If you do that against CJ will throw the post, right? He'll put the ball 50 yards in the air and hang it up there for Nico Collins. Ask the Indianapolis Colts in week 1, right? Like he was going to throw the post. And so to me, like if you want to play the post safety, and then you also want a guy for the dig, now we're talking about 3 safety stuff, right? Now we're talking about legit, like bringing out that nonsense.
Which they do.
Yeah,
they do it.
Great. Go for it. I love it. Excellent. Now we're back to where we started. I'm running the football. And like no Jim
That's fine. I think you live with that, man. If you're the Minnesota Vikings, you live with either hobbled Joe Mixon or whoever else running behind like still a bad run blocking offensive line.
And that's why the Houston Texans went out this year and got a guy in Joe Mixon. And I agree with you. It's not a great run blocking offensive line. In week 1, like I thought that they played well. Now they had the Colts, and we saw what the Packers did with the Colts in week 2. Yeah, we might know a little bit more. But that week 1 game
against success rate right now, running the ball on first down through 2 games, including that week 1 performance.
Houston's offense?
Yeah. 31st.
Oh, really? Shoot.
31st, dude. They still suck at it. They're amazing. I'm picking Houston, by the way. I'm picking Houston.
Yeah. So, like, all right, I'm also picking Houston. I think that Flores can win some battles against this passing game. I really do. But I'm so worried about turning into that ESPN play-by-play tracker on Monday and seeing touchdown drive, 1 play, 70 yards, right? Like that's just what I think you lose to with this Houston team. They have too many big playmakers, and Stroud is so good at taking the kill shot when you give it to him. So to me, I'm still taking Houston. Flores might win on paper, but I don't know if he wins the war.
Broncos Bucks. This is me. I'm the sole matchup here. I just wrote Bo Nix versus Todd Bowles. Woof.
Brought up Bowles against rookie quarterbacks in week 1 against the Commanders. It's the same thing. It's just not fair.
And worse, so far. Can I say something nice about the Broncos? I actually feel like there's a lot to like about what they're doing defensively. Maybe not a lot to like, but like when I turn on the tape and I watch their defense, I actually come away thinking like, oh, they're really they're finding good players. You're getting some good performances on that defensive line. Pass rush actually is kind of feisty. Weirdly, Surtain has been a problem for them this year. But we'll see how that plays out. Fortunately, Surtain's about to go against, what they're doing right now with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in Tampa. Whew, buddy. But I do think that the Broncos defense is actually, that's certainly not the problem. And they actually have some good players on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that they're going to last for a while. And I just think by the time they face their 9th drive and the 3rd drive, which is on a short field because of turnovers and 3 and outs and punts, I think eventually the dam breaks, especially with the way that the Bucs are playing offense right now in terms of what Liam Cohen is doing well right now is just kind of getting to buckets, just kind of getting to spots, like getting through 1st and 10 and getting to the 40 so that he can get like a nicely timed running back screen, get like a nicely timed Chris Godwin double move. Like he's just really, really good at getting to his spots on the court at this time, which you have to see how long that continues. This offense is very designery right now. It's like, we're going for this one specific play, this one specific moment. And that can be a very fragile build. But when you got Mike and when you got Chris, Godwin back in the slot.
He's going absolutely nuclear this year.
The best moment of NFL Sunday last week was when Baker Mayfield was 7 for 117 yards and Chris Godwin was 7 for 117 yards. It's a good day in the office, baby.
And all that, the other thing that kind of struck me watching Godwin in this last game against Detroit, which is quite interesting. Liam Cohen, you talked about his offense being sort of designery, and some of the motion stuff works, some of it doesn't. Some of they're still kind of, you can tell, like figuring some of it out. But Chris Godwin is such a beneficiary of that. Like if there's anyone who's benefiting more, just because he is primarily aligned in the slot there, just this offense now has the ability not only to get easier reads for Baker, but also to displace defenders in a way that you are creating better windows for Godwin to work in a way that, we just haven't seen in a couple of years. It's really fun. He's a really good football player. All right. You got Packers, Titans. Oh, sorry. We didn't do a pick for that one. I assume we're both on the Bucs.
Yeah, Bucs for sure. Bucs by a mile.
I haven't talked about the Bucs in great detail, so unfortunately this game's not good, but I will get to that at some point. I promise, Bucs fans, because there's a lot to talk about. So Packers, Titans, a little bit of a plot twist. Jordan Love, who week 1 looked like he was done for the season, apparently is thinking about playing. Makes this one a little bit tricky. Disrupts the Malik Willis revenge game.
I forgot it was Malik revenge week. I didn't even think about that. Oh, how exciting.
I personally was very excited to see what kind of 1920s bullshit Matt LaFleur was going to bust out. He's just dipping further and further into the 20th century to find unique and exotic run concepts. Pardon me, but this is a little bit hard to project on that side of the ball. What do you have as key?
Yeah. In my Malik Willis universes where he plays, my title is literally "What else you got, Matt?" Right? Like that was fun, and he took a little sick, perverse pleasure in doing that. When they scored that first touchdown and they cut to him on the sideline, he's throwing the headset and flexing and screaming. Coaches love embarrassing other coaches, and putting 7 on the board with Malik Willis is just mean, and especially with all the reverses and the backfield nonsense. You have to be able to go do it again in week 2, and especially week 2 with Malik Willis, especially because I think the traditional handoff game, the traditional between the tackles running game, is going to be a lot harder against Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat there in Tennessee than it was against Indianapolis without DeForest Buckner. They really were successful between the tackles. I think that not nearly as much in week 3 against the Titans, and so you have to get a little bit whirligig whiz bang with it, right? Jaden Reed this way, Bo Melton that way, and kind of have a good time. So firstly, it's on Matt to scrape this thing together for another week if Malik Willis goes. In the event that Jordan Love goes, it's all right, let's calm down, because that week 1 game for Jordan Love was just like highly erratic, kind of sprang all over the field. Okay, but the field was bad, and he was getting his calf worked on the sideline, and Dontavian Wicks fell down 4 times. Like it was way too much. It was way like too aggressive and too fast and kind of too dynamic. You've now seen what this running game can do for you in terms of controlling game script. Again, I think it's going to be harder in week 3. But if Love's going to be out there and he's theoretically close to 100%, I still don't think he will be fully 100%. Let's keep this simple, stupid, right? Like this back 7,
right.
Not, like L'Jarius Sneed is obviously a scary guy, but still you can get plays on these guys. You can get downfield targets on these guys, especially these linebackers. Let's just go back to basics and let's calm down from that week 1 performance.
Let me ask you one question about the Titans. Think there's any chance we see Mason Rudolph in the first half of the season, the way things are going with Levis?
I hope not, because I'm living for Brian Callahan press conferences at this point, where he's just like, God. Listen, I told him not to, and he did, and I'm mad. Like it's
all-timer moment. The shot of him screaming, "What the F are you doing?" Yeah, I don't have takes on that. I know that's sort of like more former player territory, right? Like, how do you feel about your coach? Whatever. I just found it.
I feel like whenever it's something like that. Yeah, there's always like 50% of the former players are like, you can't do this. And the other 50% are like, you can do this if like it's what your guy needs. Right, exactly. It's like, okay, it's kind of.
I do like the fans who are like, I guarantee you 99% of Titans fans watching the Titans over the last couple of weeks have done exactly that at their television screens. Right. What the F are you doing to Will Levis? So.
Yeah. And
we'll see, man.
The Levis thing is like I don't think we see Rudolph in the first half of the season, because I think the whole point is figuring out this works with Levis, and you got to be able to we call it when he was coming out
Bryce Young.
Yeah, when he was coming out of Kentucky, we legit the draft committee was calling him Thrill Levis. Like, this is not, you knew what you were getting into, right? Like the score is the score here. So I think you have to ride the roller coaster a little bit, and the roller coaster can get you to some good spots. Like, I still have suspicions about this Packers defense. I would want to ride it for a little bit longer, but I think a lot of people went and checked who the Titans QB2 was this past weekend. Just out of curiosity.
Actually, we were. I was like, who? I thought it was Woodside for a second.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Bears Colts. This feels like a big game for this feels like a is it Jover kind of moment for both teams this season. Not fair, and also not what really matters this season for either team.
Wait, did we pick Packers Titans?
Oh, sorry. Right. I'm on the Packers. I guess the question is, if it's Willis, are you on the? I feel like it's Willis, I'm going to go Titans. If it's Love, I'm going to go Packers.
I'm exactly the same way. Yep.
Because I feel like I know. I mean, how much more can you do, man?
You can't do it a second time.
And
you
the Titans
really
defense, I they got some dudes on that side of the ball. Okay, so Bears Titans. You're on the Bears. I'm on the Titans. Or pardon me, Colts. I think they should blitz him, man. Not just because, I do. Caleb's been awful against the blitz.
Yeah.
I love D'Amico. D'Amico does not blitz. He took one look at Caleb after a couple drives and said, okay, it's on. It's on like Donkey Kong. Yeah. They blitzed him 42% of the time. He has a QBR of 7 thus far this year against the blitz. But part of it also is the Colts pass rush has just been defanged quite a bit. I don't know if Latu's playing. I think he's day to day. DeForest Buckner is out. And I do think their linebackers are good pass rushers. Speed, Franklin. So I think that actually they might even lead the team in pressures right now. It's pretty bad. The Colts pass rush has been a major issue. So
they were 3rd in sacks last year and 25th in pressure rate. It was always going to be I don't know.
I'm heating Caleb up and making him prove that he can do it, because thus far this season he has not.
Yeah. So the reason why, when you said blitz, I reacted is because my key for the Bears is protect the interior, right? This interior offensive line, I think, has been, that exact face. It's been one of the biggest disappointments so far. I want to say through 2 weeks of the season.
Nightmare.
It's been, really, really rough. Now there's no DeForest Buckner in this game. Right. And so you say, oh, in theory, we'll be fine. No, you are suffering up front. Caleb right now, 3rd in pressure rate among quarterbacks. And so I think you need to do 3 things to protect the interior of your line, because you can't provide chip help. You can slide, but we'll get to that. The first thing you do is run the football. And
I was just about to say, we need a run the ball button now.
When I sent the, hey, I feel like running game is working tweet, easily the number one fan base to respond to me was the Bears, being like, do you see this? Do you see this at Shane Waldron? Right. They want, they're 18 carries for 19 yards or whatever it was with DeAndre Swift. So first you need to be able to run the ball more successfully, and you should be able to against this Colts front. If you can't do it against the Colts, what are we talking about? Where are we? That you have to be able to run the ball against this Colts team right now. The second thing you got to do is play action off the run, right? Because play action pass is going to slow down pass rush a little bit. And then the third thing is movement pockets, right? You get Caleb on the boot, get Caleb on the run, get him on the sprint out. Right now, a 5% design rollout rate for Caleb according to Next Gen Stats, which is below league average. It's just not That's not how I would want to use a player like Caleb. And I understand that Shane Waldron tends not to be that way, but like it's time to dust off.
His first season with Geno Smith, he had him booting out constantly in all those 12 and 13 personnel looks.
Right. And then he suddenly became like empty pilled, and it was just like, there's no need.
Hey, Geno, go win outside every single time. 50-50 ball to DK Metcalf. I'm not bitter about it now that I get to watch this Ryan Grubb offense.
I forgot I was scratching open a scar here. When I said Waldron's not that movement oriented, I forgot whom exactly I was speaking and what she lived through.
It's quite a contrast seeing all of the layups and the quick game stuff with Grubb and what that's opening up for Geno versus what we saw last year. And then you're seeing certainly a lack of it in Chicago with Caleb Williams.
So I just, if you're going to be getting this caliber of play from your guards, you just have to move the launch point. Yeah. And I think that Caleb showed you in USC can be really good at that. And it's a little bit of a cheesy way to play, but at this point, like, you have to get the guy some positive momentum in terms of passing the football. And I think that we saw movement stuff work well for him, like in the preseason, and he had like a nice rollout throw to DJ Moore in week 1. It's there. So let's go do it.
Bears defense is awesome. So Anthony Richardson, I mean, this is gonna be a tough day. It's a tough day for every team on the ground against this defense. He's just got to improve his accuracy on the underneath and the easier stuff. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with him and AD Mitchell, but I'm just kind of taking this right now as the okay, we're on the down part of the roller coaster. Is he going to go up? And we'll see.
They need AD Mitchell. Like, I know Josh Downs is coming back, and Downs, I think, is such a good player. He's going to be a big part of this offense, but he's a slot player. They need that other outside receiver room to be legit. And for Alec Pierce to have the week he did in week 1, and then for Mitchell to have the bad game he did in week 2, it's like, all right, like, it's time to get serious about who's playing this role.
Right. I mean, a lot of it is on Richardson, though, too. He was just not good in week 2. But again, that's,
that's the guy.
Richardson. The 2-0 Chargers against the 2-0 Steelers.
You want to pick Colts Bears or just not do that one?
Oh, God. Thank you for reminding me every time. I'm going, this is tricky. I'm going Bears to get their first win here.
Bears beat the Titans week 1. They snuck out of Tennessee. Yeah, because I know that because I'm taking the Colts to get their first win because I think they'll be desperate.
Really?
Yeah. I think the Colts got it.
I don't like this Colts defense at all.
Oh, me neither. But I think that game they played against the Packers was particularly embarrassing. And the other thing about it is they just had so few plays. They had so few drives that I think
that's true.
They feel like, all right, if we can just get the ship back, like we're going to show some people. So I think they get there first.
I just love this Bears defense. So
it's a good unit.
Okay. Someone's going to no longer be 2-0. The Chargers versus the Steelers is the, who have you played bowl? Because the Chargers beat Gardner Minshew week 1. The Panthers, the Steelers played fake Kirk week 1. And then the Broncos. I'm on the Steelers for this one. You're on the Chargers. One of note, Justin Herbert did not practice today as of taping. I think he's going to play, though. I think it's just,
the Herbert foot and ankle thing is driving me crazy, man. I'm so worried about our boy. He's one of the highest pressure rate quarterbacks in the league right now. How? You're in, we've got 4 tight ends on the field every down. How is this happening?
The offensive line, I keep saying, highlights of them run blocking, and people are like, wow, they're this is Harbaugh ball. And I'm like, okay, but also protect the quarterback when he drops back to pass for more than 2.5 seconds, please.
The Chargers fans are so excited that Joel is their best pass protector. It is bad if your rookie right tackle is your best pass protector. That's not good news.
All right, well, what do you want what did the Chargers have to do in this one?
Stay on script, right? I mean, this is the battle of who gets the lead in the second quarter, because I don't think the Steelers are well equipped to be a pass from behind team, right? To this point in the season, total offensive snaps taken while trailing. The Chargers have only 21. The Steelers have only 23. That's 26th and 27th in the league, respectively. In terms of called run rate, Chargers are 3rd, Steelers are 4th. All right,
yeah.
The formula is very clear for these teams. Play defense, low scoring game, keep it within a score, and stay on script. Be able to stay in that run and ground and pound environment. I think that both run defenses are in a good position. I think they both have some talent. I do think the Chargers is worse, though. And so to me, it's very important that the Chargers not be that team that lets the Steelers start eating the clock. I do think they're going to lose to that progressively over time. And so you absolutely have to get into a positive game script. And I think the best way to do that is to find the Justin Fields takeaway, right? Right now, the Steelers, 5 takeaways on defense, no giveaways, no fumbles and no interceptions from a Justin Fields-led team. How about that? Mike Tomlin.
He's not really putting it in harm's way either.
Right? No, I very much agree. the big thing for Fields was that like he would pay you off with these explosive plays in Chicago, but then he would take it back from you with these huge negative plays. And so far, obviously very protected, not trailing. He's largely avoided the strip sacks in the pocket, which are a big problem, avoided the bad interceptions. So if you're Jesse Minter, you're trying to figure out, how do I make this guy, who I think I know from his time in Chicago, make a mistake, right? How do I make him give me that giveaway so I can jump to an early lead and control the clock?
I feel like I have no handle on this Chargers defense yet because of the competition, and I don't think I'm going to know that much more this week. But I do have a similar thought for the Steelers, which is I wrote, just stop the run. I mean, everything you said, Chargers are obviously going to come out and run the ball, especially if Herbert is hobbled. It's interesting. Their rushing attack for all of, again, the focus has not been very high in EPA or success rate, but they are high.
The Chargers or the Steelers?
Chargers.
Yeah.
Both, honestly.
Yeah.
But the Chargers are the ones, where everyone's kind of posting these like screenshots of them with like 20 offensive linemen or whatever. They do lead the league in rush yards over expected, though, with J.K. Dobbins.
J.K.'s popped like 2 huge ones, right? And that jacks that number up.
And that jacks, right. So what you're seeing is an inconsistent run game with a couple of really big runs. Pittsburgh, it has been second in EPA per play versus the run, but again, competition. So it's kind of, this game is like, all right, let's learn a little bit more about both of these defenses and how they are against the run, to your point. And it feels like whichever team is going to be better against the run is probably going to win this game.
I will say, if I'm the Chargers and I get that lead that I wanted and I control game script like I wanted, every single time I get George Pickens 1-on-1 against either Christian Fulton or Asante Samuel, though, I'm kind of covering my eyes. I'm watching through my fingers a little bit. There's George playing some good ball for 2 weeks. I would be worried about that matchup.
My God.
Yeah.
Pickens has been fantastic. I'm gonna take the Steelers.
I'm also on the Steelers. Home field, 2-0, the vibes.
Game.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you, Fields, his best plays against the Broncos in week 2 got called back. Like, this is. I can't
really nice throw. Really nice.
I can't be the Fields guy because I was the Fields guy for too long, but I still have my stocks. I still have my.
I'm not a Fields guy. I'm a Fields over Wilson girl, and I think that is the world in which we all want to live, right? Not we all, but I think that's the right, like it's the easier place to be, and it's the correct place.
It's also
the way he's playing right now. I mean, Tomlin's got to be loving it. He's not turning the ball over. He's, fairly efficient. Obviously, it's not enough, right, for this team to be legit. But if there's some improvement, if you see like a little bit of a linear trajectory, I think that's where you start to get a little bit more hopeful as a Steelers fan, given who your defense is.
I just want him to continue playing well enough, but not so well, that Tomlin has to pretend like Russ can't go on the calf just week 13 and being like, Russ suffered another setback. He's close. We're going to address him, but I just don't think it's 100% yet. Just doing it every single Monday.
All right, let's take a quick break, come back and talk about Russell Wilson's old team. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. Dolphins, Seahawks. The Skylar Thompson-led Miami Dolphins versus the Geno Smith-led Seahawks. This is me. Just me. I wrote, just can Seattle stop Devon Achane? Pardon me. Part because Devon Achane is awesome. I think they're going to lean on him very heavily in this one with Skylar Thompson, who did not look great, obviously coming in, on short notice. But the offense has to be different with him without Tua Tagovailoa. And it's still a concern of mine with the Seahawks defense, not just run defense generally, but the kind of runs that they struggle with. Something that concerned me against New England in particular was a couple of big outside runs that Antonio Gibson popped off. In fact, on outside runs, he ended up averaging 9.4 yards per carry, part because of 2 really gigantic runs. But he had a 55% success rate, which is very bad. One was just outside zone where he just ran right at Draymond Jones. Other one was Mafe missed a tackle. I pretend I do not see it. But I still have concern about both this front and this linebacking group against really good outside zone running teams.
Yeah. And so those big plays in that Hunter Henry screen also to the right side of the formation where Reek Woolen. And just like, if I'm going up against the Seattle defense, the first thing on my list is like, I want to make Reek Woolen tackle. Like, it was the problem for him last year. So far through 2 games, like, I don't think it's been completely figured out. Like, he just does not have a good nose for where the football is going to be and how to get there and how to consistently tackle. Like, and when you're talking about a Mike McDaniel team that's so willing to throw behind the line of scrimmage, on swings, on jets, outside of the hashes, outside of the numbers, it's just like, let's get the corner in the fit. Let's get the corner in the play. Let's go block some people up and make one of these DBs tackle. Because even like beyond Woolen, Witherspoon's a great hitter. Rayshon Jenkins is a great hitter, but it's not an amazing tackling secondary. And like most secondaries aren't great, but like I think Seattle in particular can struggle with that. And so this, like, Seattle's favored. Of course they are. They're 2-0. I think they're like a solid team. Like, I generally really like what they're doing offensively. And I think their coaching staff is sharp. I think they have talent, but this stinks to me. This Dolphins, like, just with the amount of speed that they have and some of the struggles that Seattle has against the run. Like,
you're on Miami.
So worried. No,
in Seattle, Skylar Thompson in Seattle.
No, I'm not. But
it'll be uncomfortable.
You tell me this isn't the sort of game that Seattle finds a way to lose.
Oh yeah, I mean, and look, again, Mike McDaniel has some time, extra time. Don't love that. And Skylar Thompson did play better 2 years ago, pardon me, when he actually had to play.
Yeah.
I don't think he's as bad as he looked, last week. So I'm still on Seattle. I do think it'll be uncomfortable. Speaking of uncomfortable, you got Panthers Raiders.
Yay. All right. This is going to, like, the first question is, does Andy Dalton solve, how many problems does he solve, right?
Yeah,
like, does Andy, when we saw Andy for 2 weeks last year,
look better.
It looked substantially better, right? And like, Adam Thielen was happy, and
he threw for 361 yards against the Seahawks.
Right. And like the best way to describe how Andy has this floor raising ability, because it feels like it's Andy Dalton, like it shouldn't be this big, is the fact that like the Panthers constantly lose off the left side in pass protection. Ike Ekwonu their left tackle. They're trying to get the young guy right, and just like he's just really, really struggles in pass protection. Dalton is the sort of guy who can walk into a game knowing that, and can spend 4 quarters largely negating it. He's still going to lose some. He's still going to get some sacks, but just his clock is going to be faster. He's going to know how to manage the pocket. Like, that's the veteran aspect that like just immediately lifts the floor of this team. And so the first question is just like, all right, well, what if Andy's got enough? Like, what? And Dave Canales is a good schemer, and all of a sudden they put enough points and they get the win. Especially like in the first week after Bryce. Like, I don't think they'll say it out loud, but I think a lot of these offensive players are going to be kind of excited for that first game and Bryce. I think that's just the reality of it. From a larger scale, just looking at how these two teams match up, the question is, what do you do with the Raiders stars? Because the Raiders are getting good play from like Robert Spillane and like Adam Butler and Brock Bowers looks great as a rookie. Like, they're getting play from their guys, but the story of that win against the Ravens and the story of most of the Raiders' success last season was that Devontae Adams can take over the game if he wants to, and Max Crosby can take over the game if he wants to. Right. Crosby,
those 2 players in that game both went absolutely insane.
Crosby's a little son of a gun, man. Like, when I watch Crosby, I hate him. He's so disruptive. He's smart, and he sees everything early, and he's high effort. He's just like he's such a headache to play against. I'm gonna say a name that is not a fair comparison, but it reminds me of when you would plan against JJ Watt and you would just be like, okay, whatever. Like, this is not like there's nothing to do. You just lose to this. And I know like the right side of the Ravens line isn't great, but still, like, Crosby, week 2 is something to see.
Yeah, I think the Panthers offensive line is like better than they've been given credit for. And obviously Bryce exacerbated some of that. And I think we're going to see them look better, but this is obviously such a difficult test. I just don't think that defense has answers for these Raiders weapons. It's not just Adams. I mean, good. How about Brock Bowers? Whoo, boy, he looks good. So I'm on the Raiders.
I'm on the Raiders as well.
Despite the Dalton.
But I will be Red Rifle cheering from my office on Sunday. I'm rooting for Andy.
Okay, so once again, sorry, we got some real tough ones back to back. We got Niners Rams next. So this is me. I did not make both of us take it one side of the ball here. It's funny because at first I forgot that we were doing that, and I sat there for like 15 minutes staring at a wall trying to think of something the Rams could do given their deficiencies. It is, I mean, I've never seen an injury epidemic like what the Rams are going through. Maybe that's short memory. I'm sure some fan of, like, I don't know, maybe in the Niners at a certain point, there were certainly seasons where they lost a lot of dudes, but it is absolutely brutal. So my focus is on the Niners offense, which is also injured, is out both Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel in this one. Deebo is going to be, seems like a more short-lived injury, but I wrote throw it back, which is to say this Niners offense with Jordan Mason, Kittle, Ayuk, Jennings, I almost feel like you got to go back to kind of like 2020, like 2021, which is to say, under center, zone running, play action to Kittle. You don't gotta get fancy against this Rams defense, right? It's a formula it isn't the turbocharged 21 personnel versatility basketball on grass Niners we've been watching for the last 2 years. That version of the Niners, I believe, does depend on CMC and or Debo, but it's a formula that's good enough to beat most teams, especially how most teams are constructed right now, and definitely the Rams.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. This is turn back the clock. This is big bully football. I think this offensive line is with Dominic Pooney stepping in there at right guard is really good in the ground game now, right? Improved over the course of last year, and I think they're continuing that arc. It's also important, I think, to run the ball and just kind of stay ahead of the sticks in general, because Christian and McCaffrey and Debo are they're kind of your layup guys, right? They're kind of your, all right, it's 2nd and 13. Let's just throw a screen to Debo and get to 3rd and 5, right? Exactly. Yeah. And just like Kittle, Ayuk, what you've got from Jordan Mason, Juwan Jennings, all those guys do great stuff for you. But your tackle breakers, your create something out of nothing guys, those are the two that you're absent right now. So I think it is important to stay out of the long and late distances. This is the sort of like the Niners have no second tight end. Right, it's Eric Saubert, right? They drafted Cam Latu. It didn't work out for them. And this is the sort of game where you really like to be able to put 2 tight ends on the field. And I know they use Kyle Juszczyk as a tight end, but that's one thing that just they've gone so spread oriented that they kind of aren't deep at that position the way that we're accustomed to a Shanahan offense being. And this is the sort of game where I'm interested to see formationally how that affects them.
Feels like a big Kittle game.
It does.
Lions, Cardinals, suddenly a very good game. Mm-hmm. You're on the Lions. I'm on the Cardinals. You go first. What does Detroit have to do to bounce back from their week 2 loss?
Score. I mean, come on now. The Lions are 3rd in the league right now in the percentage of their drives that get into the red zone, and they are 28th in red zone efficiency in terms of the number of touchdowns that they score when they get it down in there. They were 1 for 7 in the red zone against Tampa Bay. And I think when you go and you look for issues as to why, one, I think they've been a little bit too pass happy. I think that they really want Jameson Williams to be the 3rd target for them, the 3rd receiver, and Jameis had some nice big explosive gains, but like he is not Josh Reynolds. He doesn't win a 50-50 ball in a tight area, right? He made the mistake against the sideline that was big for them in this game. And without Sam Laporta kind of being activated these first 2 weeks, they just don't have big red zone targets. It's not St. Brown's game. They don't have within the trees winning over the face mask guys right now, the way that Reynolds was them and Laporta was them last year. And so one, I think they've been a little bit too pass happy. And then 2, I think that, in the running game, they are getting a little cute, getting a little fun, getting a little watch these pullers, watch this go that way, look at this over here outside of the numbers. Let's go and move this guy. Listen, just be bigger than the other dudes. Just be bigger than the other dudes for 4 quarters.
I need to get the button. Run the damn ball.
Just get under center and go. I think that it goes back to what you saw in overtime against the Rams, where it's like if you lean on teams for 4 quarters, I know body blows doesn't exist, but if you lean on teams for 4 quarters, you have the ability to just control the line of scrimmage and consistently chunk those gains. That's something you should be able to do against a Cardinals defense that is just extremely light, that is just not talented in the front. Not the most talented team in the front 4. Like that's where you should be able to win. The other key to victory is get Aiden Hutchinson against another backup tackle for the 3rd week in a row. Hutch has had 11 pressures on the season. Every single one of them against a backup. And he gets Kelvin Beachum off the right side of this game. He's juicing the stats.
He's still playing well.
Yeah,
scoring is paramount because I actually think the Cardinals offense can have, not actually, I believe that they can have success against this Lions defense. And my key for them there is attack the linebackers in the passing game, and then whoever they end up sacrificing to Marv. Yeah, I guess probably it'll be Davis, Arnold. I don't know.
I think you want it to be Davis. Arnold's getting a lot of flags right now, which is you just
whoever
don't want
it
that
is.
on
I think Harrison Jr. is already bigger than that connection between him and Kyler already being there is such a problem for defense like that plays a ton of man coverage. But I'm focused on the linebackers in particular because. The Cardinals talked about this a lot, talked about it on live yesterday. They love putting 2-3 tight ends on the field. The Lions will match that with base. That's what they do. That's what they've done thus far this season. Actually, 100% of the time they matched it with base. Last year, 12% they matched with base, 77%, 13, 97%. So you're going to get those linebackers on the field in coverage if you want them. I think this is a big Trey McBride game. I haven't been on my dynasty team, by the way, and I'm like, ooh, this week.
There's only one good pass catching tight end left, and it's Trey McBride. All the other ones can't play. Only Trey.
I just think that they're going to be able. Drew Petzing is going to be able to get some good matchups for Kyler in this one. And it's funny. This
Mhm.
Lions defense, I don't think they're bad. And I do think that the pass defense is better than they were last year. And they've gone up against difficult wide receivers, right? This is a defense that plays like a ton of man coverage. And unfortunately, they've gone up against, like Cooper Kupp, half of Pukunakua, and then Evans and Godwin, who, as we discussed, are just absolute world beaters right now. But it's been tough for them out there for Aaron Glenn's unit. So I feel like you want to definitely, there's a very good run defense. So I think you do want to throw on them and take advantage of those personnel groupings.
Yeah, no, I very much agree. Get the backers on the field. And you're right, they're a good run defense, but Aaron Glenn's from Dennis Allen. They've been bad against scrambling quarterbacks over his time there. And listen, Baker Mayfield put Jack Campbell on skates in week 2. If you're getting juked by Baker Mayfield in space and Kyler Murray's coming to town in week 3, it's warning signs, it's red flags. Don't get on the beach. Like it is. I'm worried about the Lions athletes in space against the Cardinals athletes in space with how good Drew Petzing is at deciding who gets the ball and where they get it. And so, yeah, I think that the total for this game, Mina, is 52.5 points. So big total. We're expecting points in Arizona.
Oh, we skipped the pick. We're both on the Niners, I assume.
Yeah.
This one's harder. This is tricky. I'm going to go Lions because I think they're going to run the damn ball and control the clock.
I also think it's Lions, but how fun is it that it's week 3 and we're like, man, Lions Cardinals is a tricky one. The advantage that the Lions have in terms of size, running game, and line of scrimmage control is just too big for me to overlook. Like I want to be all the way in on this Cardinals team, and then I just see what they are run defense wise, and I'm like, okay, like I just can't. Yeah. I can't get there until that problem gets solved.
All right, so this is the game you alluded to, Ravens Cowboys, the 0-2 Baltimore Ravens against the 101 Dallas Cowboys. I've got the Cowboys in this one. I wrote CeeDee Lamb X receiver take over.
Yep, exactly.
So far this season, CeeDee's been aligned in the slot 58% of the time, out wide only 38% of the time. One of the nice developments in the second half of last year is when they started using him as a true X. He's so clearly their main weapon, and you obviously want to, if you're Mike McCarthy, you want to consider this on a game-by-game basis with regards to matchups. But the matchups in this one favor putting him outside because there is no one in this Ravens secondary in that cornerback room who can hang with CeeDee Lamb outside at this point. I just feel like right now you're looking at Humphrey and Stevens. I don't know what the status is with Wiggins, but even if Wiggins was healthy, I'm not going to say a rookie corner is going to have that much more success. This feels like one where CD, if Dallas wants to win this one, CD has to go just put up crazy numbers.
Yeah, right now, week 1, Rashee Rice, 7 for 103 on 9 targets. Week 2, Devontae, 9 for 110 and a score on 12 targets, right? I mean, like the Ravens' theory is we're going to play a lot of zone. We're going to sim pressure. We're going to rush with 4. And they've been a pretty good job getting pressure with 4. They've done a pretty good job discouraging downfield targets. A lot of stuff is going underneath right now, and they're rallying and trying to tackle. But the problem is that when that opposing offense wants to go get a bucket on 3rd and 6, they just do not have the ability to go tag the top guy. They like Marlon Humphrey was that guy, titularly, like he's that guy by name, but it's been a while since he's really been that caliber of player. Right, the drafting of Wiggins, let's hope he can be that. He's not going to be that in week 3, even if he's capable of going. Like, and they don't have that person. And so if you are, and when you watch the Cowboys against the Saints in week 2, the Saints said in terms of the passing game, they said, okay, anybody but CD beat us, right? Jalen Brooks come beat us. Jalen Tolbert can beat us. There's no Jake Ferguson in that game. So we're going to make you throw to wide receiver 2, make you throw to wide receiver 3. And that's just it's not tenable for the Cowboys because of how thin they've gotten there. And so this is absolutely unequivocally a silo game. It is if the Cowboys win the CeeDee Lamb matchup, I think they score too many points. If the Cowboys don't win the CeeDee Lamb matchup, I think the Ravens have it. It's funneled on that matchup right there.
So what do you got for the Ravens?
I think the Ravens win. And I think the Ravens win because I think they're 0-2 and they're very desperate and they're in a bad way. I do think that we didn't really talk about where we're at with the right side of the line, but we're at a point now with Daniel Falele at right guard where the Ravens beat is asking what possibly is going on with Ben Cleveland. He isn't playing. That's how bad the play has gotten there on the right side of the line. It is, and Harbaugh was he didn't beat out Falele. And it's
right.
It's just dude, how it has been so rough for them at that position and just generally on that side of the line. I don't have answers. What I do know is that Mike Zimmer will get you If he smells blood in the water, if there's a weak point in your line, he will get there. And so I don't feel great about the Ravens offense. Let me be clear, but I do think that like this is a really sharp coaching staff. I do think the Cowboys have some pretty easily attackable issues on the offense as well.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a gnarly, nasty, not a pleasant game for anybody. But I do think that at this point the Ravens get the win because they've been close. They've been sniffing around them. Like this is not as bad of an 0-2 team as you think. I think they get theirs.
You think in heavy play action, maybe a big Justice Hill game potentially in this one.
Targets to the backs. I also think that like I don't know. If Zay Flowers is your wide receiver one, let's let him be a wide receiver one. Can we throw him the ball down the field? Can we throw him the ball in isolation? Can we let him beat one-on-one matchups? Like you shouldn't need to funnel targets like behind the line of scrimmage and in the design game to a guy who's going to be your wide receiver one. Now, if he isn't, if this is how you think of him, sit Lamar down and tell him to throw the ball to Rashad Bateman. Say, okay, or like, let's use likely in any unique way. Like the Ravens passing game is very like, I don't understand what they're aiming at. And to me, like if they continue to just aim at Zay Flowers behind the line of scrimmage, they're going to continue to suffer. I feel like this coaching staff is too smart to let that go on for too long.
So thus far, the Derrick Henry experiment or addition has been somewhat underwhelming, but a lot of that is outside of the control of Henry. Some of that, a lot of it is the run blocking has been pretty dismal. But some of it also is sort of the predictability of his usage, right? In terms of alignments and, if they're passing the ball, who they have on the field. Do you think there's anything they can do to get him going or to, really create opportunities for him against what has been a pretty miserable run defense?
I would hope that they're willing to get a little bit more, like I brought up with Matt LaFleur, a little bit more whirligig whiz bang. Let's do a little bit more designer stuff. Like Henry, because he is so big, is always conceived of as like, give him the ball and run him between the guards. But the thing that Henry was always so dangerous with when he was in his prime with the Titans was you would get him on like a wind back carry or some like, Titan leader, like some sort of like a little bit of a change up play. And then all of a sudden he's going horizontal. He's not going vertical, but he's going there against Josh Norman. And then he plants Josh Norman and then he turns upfield. And now it's, we're ringing the alarm bells, right? We're going, all hell's breaking loose. And so their usage of him to this point has been very traditional and very like, this is our ground and pound back. This is our Gus Edwards. But if you really want to maximize Derrick Henry and you don't have the pulling guards and the down blocking tackles right now to like win on counter, then get him outside and let him go to the secondary right away.
You have to create space for him. Right now it's just so compressed, and Derrick Henry, you need him to be able to build, right?
Yeah, he needs the runway.
Right now, expected yards per carry, it's 2.9, which is the second worst of any back in football. So he's actually like his numbers aren't even that bad when you consider that. But
one thing I will say is like, again, like I keep saying, I think the staff is smart. I think Lamar's a really good quarterback. I think they're going to figure things out. And I think they've been close. Like they are a few plays away from 2-0. With that said, like we might be in a month, Mina, you and I sitting down and being like, this Ravens offensive line is prohibitive to them winning any games against anybody. Like we are like, we talk about bad offensive lines. This is really in a bad spot right now.
Consistent theme, by the way, in the teams that I didn't foresee the offenses being as challenged as they are is underestimating offensive line issues. I think about a team like Chicago. Obviously we talked about, but
the Jets, I would say too, like that offense not as good. I thought that offensive line would be better and help that offense a little bit more. Yeah.
Team we're going to talk about later on Monday Night Football potentially, but we're in Sunday night right now, and the Chiefs and the Falcons Sunday Night Football, we just saw them. I don't know, whatever. It's fine. It's fine, schedulers. I just feel like
you don't like primetime Kirk back to back? Well, primetime Kirk?
What are we doing here? You're on the Chiefs. I'm on the Falcons. Oh, sorry. I'm also taking Baltimore. You're on the Chiefs. I'm on the Falcons. You go first. What do the Chiefs have to do? We might be I think we're going to have similar, well, maybe we'll see.
All right. Well, my thing is you got to win early downs. That's what I want the Chiefs to be able to do defensively. Right now, the Falcons on first down, third in yards per play, first in success rate. On third down, 27th in yards per play, 30th in success rate. Kirk is not a drop back pass quarterback at this time, unless it's the last drive against the Eagles on Monday Night Football, in which case he's fine for some reason. But at this time, he is not a drop back pass quarterback. On first down, they're succeeding both with the run and with the play action pass, right? They're getting to their early down pass looks, and they're throwing some screens and getting ahead of the sticks, and they need to survive that way because just like the long and late down right now is just not good for them for the Kirk being a statue in the pocket, some of their pass protection issues off the right side. Like they have to stay out of third and long. Spags loves a third and long, right? And so at this point, you have to be willing to take your 1st and 10 packages, right? Your 1st and 10 defense and throw some surprising stuff in there, be willing to blitz a little bit, be willing to get a little bit chaotic there and see if you can get them to long and late because their drive screeches to a halt the second that they get behind the sticks. The willingness and ability of Spags to get multiple backers on the field, get big bodies on the field against this running game is going to be a big deal, because the Falcons are objectively running the football well. Like, some of the numbers don't look great, and like the Steelers game was a tough one, but like if you watch execution, you watch how Bijan's playing, like they've got some good stuff going for them. And so if you can gummy that up on first down, get them into long and late, you're going to be able to control this game script.
Yeah, I wrote, can you take advantage of the Chiefs worrying about Bijan on first down, which is kind of similar in some ways, because everybody knows, like, that's, not everybody, but I mean, Bijan was amazing last week, and I think this Chiefs run defense is still, I wouldn't call it their Achilles heel, because I wouldn't call it bad per se, but it's certainly the weakness of this group. They know that. They know Bijan's going to get, under center zone runs and stretch them out. So, my question for Zach Robinson and Kirk and Bijan as potentially a pass catcher off of play action, all of that is, can you exploit this linebacker group? And the Chiefs love playing base. They love putting those linebackers out there. Can you exploit them being a little bit nosy against the run and surprise them enough on early downs to where you can slow them up against the run the rest of the game? I think that, to your point, this game is going to be, on that side of the ball, really determined by whether or not they have success on early downs. I think this is going to be an interesting. I really like Bijan, the pass catcher, in this one for the Falcons. That's what I would do. So, I mean, other side of the ball, I do want to hit this because it occurred to me after we talked about, Dominique and I talked about the Falcons and Eagles. We didn't really talk about the Falcons defense. What did you think of them? And do you think they have any chance against Kansas City?
I think that they did a good job playing into the Eagles' weaknesses. Like I said, kind of manipulating where Jalen Hurts was launching the ball from. I think they did a nice job realizing very quickly what the plan was going to be without A.J. Brown, right? A lot of screens, a lot of underneath stuff. Let's get tight to the formation. I do think that I would take almost any line in the league against the Falcons front six, front seven at this point in terms of like run defense. And if you're the Chiefs, you walked into this game being like, man, we invested so much in the running game. We're so physical. We know how to run the ball now. It's great. And then Isaiah Pacheco went down, right? And that's where, like, now I've got the question marks of, okay, just how good are we going to be with Carson Steele, Samaje Perine, and Kareem Hunt kind of toting the ball back there? And so I thought the Falcons defense did a good job solving problems against the Eagles, but I still feel like I want to go against these guys in the trenches for 4 quarters.
Yeah. I had a similar takeaway watching them, which is like, oh, they look really well coached, right? It's a Raheem Morris.
Raheem knows what he's doing, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought some of the pressures he dialed up were very clever, the things that they did specifically against Jalen, but obviously the Chiefs are a different animal. I'm on the Chiefs in this one. Mm-hmm. I actually think what you saw at the end from Kirk, you're going to see a little bit more of week by week. I really do believe that. I just don't think that they can keep up with Kansas City. I also think the Chiefs defense is just such a different level from the Eagles defense.
Yeah, I'm on the Chiefs as well. I will say that, like, when the Chiefs let L'Jarius Sneed go to Tennessee, and in doing so kind of elevated Trent McDuffie to be like, this is our guy now in the defense. Love Trent. Trent's amazing. I am interested to see Trent against a guy like Drake London, because the one thing you're really suffering for when you go from Sneed to McDuffie is size, right? You're losing a couple inches.
Yeah, true,
right? And McDuffie's he's a junkyard dog.
He wrestled Jamar Chase to the ground so much so that Jamar Chase lost it.
Thought he was penalty.
What a moment. Oh,
yeah. So McDuffie, again, like if there's a guy you trust, it's McDuffie. But in week 1, it's Zay. In week 2, it's Jamar Chase. Those are just not the biggest bodies at receiver. Now it's Drake. And so I'm confident he wins that, because I don't think Drake can separate on him. But I will say, like, I'm very interested to watch that matchup.
Counterpoint, Kirk Cousins is going to throw it at Drake London's feet, where Trent McDuffie can win rather than
Kirk Cousins throwing anywhere beyond 10 yards is another. I pretend I don't see it now.
It's an adventure. Ball's dying. I do think it's getting better. I really believe that. I feel like every week we're going to see a little bit more of it.
I think so.
Okay, 2 Monday night games. Woo!
Yay!
Which game is better? Jags Bills and Commanders Bengals. Let's start with Jags Bills. I always struggle with watching these games too at the same time. I'm still like it's weird on Sundays. I'm so used to watching multiple games at once. Usually I try to focus on 2 at once, but for some reason on Monday I'm still like,
I'm out.
I struggle with the toggling. Okay. I'm on the Bills, and I'm talking about the Bills, and you're talking about the Jags, which I'm grateful for, because I don't understand the Jags. They're the team I just do not understand the most, and I find the most frustrating and the difficult to get my arms around, and that's maybe 3 straight years to that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I have the equivalent of that in my answer, which is, can the Jaguars please just play sound situational football? Right? It's just they are once again, they started the season this way last year. They're once again one of the best first down teams, one of the worst third down teams on offense. They're 5 for 19 on third down, which is the 5th worst conversion rate. They're 0 for 1 on their 1 fourth down try. They have only scored, not touchdown, scored on 5 of 7 red zone drives. It's a bottom 5 conversion rate in the red zone. They have the worst starting field position through 2 weeks. Just be good at football.
You know what? The reason why they're so hard to talk about is because of those failures that you talk about. There's a different reason every time. Like we're as football analysts, we're trying to identify strengths, weaknesses, trends, things we notice. The problem with the Jags is there's no consistency in why they succeed and why they fail, or why they fail. Sometimes it's honestly Trevor, like, just kind of making a boneheaded throw or something. Sometimes it's the offensive line failing often. Sometimes it's wide receivers with the weirdest drops you've ever seen. There's just no one reason why. That's why I find them so difficult to talk about. They have all these good players, but if honestly, that's probably on coaching more than anything if you're talking like that. So
I was gonna say, if I did not worship at the altar of Doug Peterson, who brought the Philadelphia Eagles their first Super Bowl victory, I would say a phrase that rhymes with Borley boached, but I'm not going to say it. But if somebody were to say it, I would find it very defensible. This Jags team just does not execute. You're a 1-score game. You claw your way back in against the Browns. You take a safety. You're looking for a double move. You are up multiple scores.
Oh, yeah, you're up in your own zone. Of course, you're going to dial up a deep shot versus the best pass rush in the NFL when you have a crappy offensive line. Why does that not make sense to you?
That's so defensible. If you're good at football, then you do things like that. But you're not, so you can't.
For the Bills, I wrote, can the spine of this defense hold up yet again miraculously? Because I have predicted the demise of this defense so many times that I have given up on it over the last 3 years. When it was just to say, I think they're good, but they keep losing players, and yet they keep hanging in there. So Terrell Bernard is out, I presume, in this one. If I'm Jacksonville, I am throwing the ball on a million crossers to Brian Thomas Jr. across the middle of this field. I think that's their best play right now. I think Evan Ingram is going to play in this one. I tried to figure that out the last second.
I haven't seen an update. Let me see.
Okay. So he had a hammy thing last week, but
he's listed as questionable. There's no update right now on Wednesday practice. So I don't know yet.
So, and I say that because I think, I think Josh Allen I think the offense will be fine against Jacksonville. I just wonder, my fear is okay, what if this turns into a high scoring game? And I like the Bills pass rush against this Jags offensive line. So I think it's okay, if we get into a Trevor Lawrence ball out super quick kind of game, can you tackle? Can you defend the middle of the field? Can you limit yards after the catch? I'm on Buffalo. I think Buffalo wins this. And that would put the Jags at 0-3. And Doug Peterson on early hot seat watch, potentially.
100%. Yeah. I will say, when these two teams played last year, which was in London, right? So it's a weird game. You don't know what to take away from it. It's kind of a mess. The Bills ran 14 times for 29 yards in that game, right? And this was still early season, which is when they the investment in the running game.
First half of the season, the Jags run defense was unbelievable.
Tectonic. It was insane.
So weird.
Yeah. And so, right, the Bills have been investing in that running game, and you really started to see the fruits of that labor second half of last season and now into this season. So very interested to see that interchange again. We're watching to see the Bills' investment there. Again, the Jaguars are 0-2. I think they're better than the record. This again feels like a spot where I want to pick the Jaguars. I don't know if I can do it again. If I can Charlie Brown the football with Lucy holding it, the Jaguars holding the ball another time. So I think I'm taking Bills, but I will say that those Bills injuries you bring up defensively, they always are very good schematically against the Dolphins, and they get the people in the right spots. I do think that when they face a team like a more standard team that's not running that sort of an offense, I do think you're going to see the absence of Teron Johnson, the absence of Terrell Bernard start to accumulate a little bit. So I'm picking the Bills, but I would not be surprised if Jacksonville finds some success.
You look at the Bills schedule and see who they have. Because I agree with you, your point about sort of the makeup of the Bills. Ooh, the Ravens. Sunday Night Football. That's
where I might start to catch up to you a little bit.
That spine, right, where the Ravens love to attack the hashes. Okay, final game, banger, Commanders Bengals.
Woo!
You went first last time, so I'm gonna go first this time. I feel like I'm going to say this for the Bengals a lot of games, but I'm certainly going to say this against this Commanders team. Can you stop Washington on the ground, Cincinnati?
Yep. This is a very good button game for us because mine is literally run the ball. It just is.
Okay, so I think that the Bengals offense, which obviously has been up and down, I don't think they're going to have trouble with this Commanders defense. I think this is going to be a big Joe Burrow rebound game. My question is, this defense has not been able. It's one of the worst run defenses in the NFL thus far. And you're going up against Commanders team. Brian Robinson Jr. just put up like 8 yards a carry or something in week 2. I feel like it's a good point rather to talk a little bit about that Washington offense thus far.
Don't make me. But call somebody else in to finish the pod. I don't want to talk about the Commanders offense. You can't make me. You're not my boss. I can do what I want. I don't want to talk about it.
I worry very much about Jaden Daniels taking a big hit in this one because they're gonna. I mean, I worry about that every week, but I feel like this one they're gonna. I mean, he's gonna.
It's not good, man.
And it's not that it's not about Jaden Daniels. I think, well, it is about his size, obviously, but in terms of like just the offense and his usage and what Cliff Kingsbury's doing out there, he's going to run the ball a lot in this one, both the quarterback and the backs. Part of the reason the run game has looked good is it's actually like a decent run game. It's not just, which was always the thing with Cliff, but also I think this offense, you're seeing how Jaden Daniels is an excellent RPO quarterback. He makes good decisions. Robinson got the ball running into a lot of favorable looks, part because of that. I think let me try to be optimistic about this here, or at least more diagnostic. Pardon me. What would you do differently watching this offense? Like, what do you want to see more of from the Commanders' offense?
I mean, you're a little bit shackled because of the wide receivers that you have available. I just don't think the depth at that position is exactly what you want, and it's hard to be a good drop back pass team with the protection off the blind side at this point, right? Like Trey Hendrickson against a rookie and Kingsley Suamataia was a nightmare for the Chiefs in week 2. Now it's Brandon Coleman, who's I think really struggled to this point in week 3, and so you're a little bit hamstrung in terms of what you do offensively by the limits on the roster. With that said, you watched Jaden in college just beat teams, throwing 9 balls and scrambling, right? The guy's a beautiful deep arm and he can break 19 angles because he's so fast. The fact that the Commanders have not yet found a way to go 3-step, land on the back foot, and get a one-on-one to Terry is astonishing. Because I don't understand where else explosives are going to come from besides the fact that Jaden can really drop the ball in a bucket. And like I said, there's limits on the wide receiver room. If there's something that De'Ami Brown does really well, it's winning outside of the numbers. It's being able to track that vertical ball and go bring it down up against the sideline. And so like the first thing that I would want to be able to do is I'd want to be able to go like 4 wide. I'd want to be able to go empty, and I'd want to be able to control by formation, control by routes the safeties, so I can throw one-on-ones and feel like that's going to help me get actually big gains down the field. Running game wise, I wouldn't change too much. Like they're doing like stuff with Robinson and Eckler on the field. He's moving around. They're getting Jaden involved in the running game in a variety of ways, not just zone read. They're doing other stuff. Like largely, I think you're doing well there. But the fact that your passing game right now is
so tight.
It's so tight. It's the exact correct thing. You are playing in such condensed spaces with a wide receiver room that is theoretically about space. I just don't.
2.33 second time to throw, 4.7 air yards per target, 0 completions over 20 yards.
And it's a myth that you have to be. It's not a myth. In some instances, it is a myth that you have to be high time to throw in order to be high ADOT. The one way to do it is just gun, 3-step, 9 ball. It's the only way.
Wait, I've never seen Jaden. Oh wait, I've seen him do it a million times.
You have to be able to uncork that at the very least to like score competitively because of the state your defense is in right now. And I 100% agree with you. Like, I think Commanders are going to find success. I think they're going to run the ball well. I think they're going to put up points. I just do not think this defense can keep them in the game against Joe. And so I think it's chalked.
Yeah, I got the Bengals in this one as well, unless they finally unlock that that explosive passing game. I do think, like you said, like I said, but the run game, there's an advantage there, but it's just not enough without a complementary passing attack.
And you and I remember, I was lower on Jaden coming out than you were for sure. And like through 2 weeks, I'm like a little bit arrow up on Jaden. I'm like, all right, like this is working better in the league than I thought it would. But if they can't figure out how to get a deep pass out of Jaden without him breaking and taking 10, 12 hits over the course of a game, then there's just no ceiling here. There just isn't.
Yeah.
This was a doubter.
Some of those hits too, I just do not like. Yeah, we'll see. There's still time to turn this ship around. And I know, I mean, like, look, if you're a Commanders fan, you feel at least pretty good about the quarterback relative to some of the young quarterback play we're seeing around the league. I do think that's a fair way to think about it. All right, that's it. We got through all the games. Ben, you had a column that came out Tuesday, and then you have another one coming out today. Is that correct? Yeah,
I have Thursday, I'm breaking down the Saints. Friday, I'm previewing week 3. Don't read my column on Tuesday. I didn't say anything incendiary. Please don't look at it.
I'm excited to read the Saints piece because, it's just been such a fun and hilarious story. Derek Carr, man.
Dude, every 4 years, Derek Carr, he's like the cicadas that come out every time. Every 4 years, Derek Carr just emerges an aggressive downfield passer. We love to see it.
Incredible. So you can check out Ben's work on ESPN.com. You can also listen to him on Monday morning, on ESPN Daily. You can check out this podcast wherever you get your pods, also on YouTube at youtube.com/@Mina Kimes. Last week yesterday, we had an interview with Kyle Hamilton drop. That's on the YouTube. If you haven't had a chance to watch or listen to it, Kyle. He was great. True ball knower, really terrific interview. Had a lot of fun chatting with him. Hopefully the Ravens don't fall to 0-3 this weekend. Ooh, I don't think they will. We'll see. I don't know. It's a tough one. So thank you as always to the producers of this show at Omaha Productions, Kirsten Sebecki, Anthony Jimenez, Owen Saylor, Jack Foster, Kevin Mattice, Tucker Tashton. And we'll be back on Tuesday, recapping the Monday night doubleheader.